All right. Welcome to this stream. Today, I will be doing some Akashic Records readings, which is basically when I go over your soul's current lesson. I go over what you should be releasing, and I tune into who might be draining you. So a lot of people don't notice that a lot of their energy that they build up every day in meditation or by, doing good deeds or by taking care of themselves, a lot of that energy gets dissipated when people are draining them. So it's almost like they didn't even meditate because this person drained them so much. So it's important to know if people are draining you, because you can set energetic boundaries and then also boundaries in your actual life if someone's actually crossing them, and you can reclaim your energy back. And it's one of the most important things to do in terms of spiritual practices, is just to reclaim your energy back and to be in your own center. A lot of people spend months and years outside of their own center, and it causes them, I'm going to try to get this mosquito, and it causes them to be really out of alignment because they have trouble just simply getting into the harmony of life because they're constantly being drained. And it's not even that person's fault, but it's kind of in the nature of unconsciousness. So yeah, let's see. So yeah, when you get more conscious, you start noticing when your energy is getting drained in certain directions, but sometimes you can be so stuck in your own ways that you have gotten so adjusted to certain feelings, you just think that's how life is. And so it can be very valuable for somebody else to come in and do a reading and check in with what's going on in your spirit, because sometimes it's easier to see the picture from outside of the lens instead of sorry, for anyone that just joined, there's a mosquito trying to get me, so I'm trying to get him first. So yeah, with readings, it's kind of like you're able to see in from an outside perspective and get interpretations of the energy. So you have an unbiased perspective on what that person is going through. Because a lot of times when we tune into our own energy, we have so many biases and perceptions based on what we think of ourselves and our own energy. It can be hard to actually tune into what's really going on beneath the surface. So with Akashic Records readings, you can tune into who's been draining you, and you can also tune into who has or what your current lesson is in your soul. An example of this, I like to bring this up, is a lot of people think they're ready to manifest their soulmate. So they are doing all this spiritual work to call in their soulmate. But their soul maybe wants to learn how to heal their inner child. Or maybe their soul wants to get connected with their purpose more. So because they're going against their soul, even though they're doing something that's a great thing, like attracting your soulmate, sometimes it's not the time. And if you try to force something to happen too soon, you'll get in like a frustrated loop where you stay stuck, and then you're also not progressing really in other areas as fast as you could be because you're not focusing on the right things. So one of the best things about Akashic Records readings is that you can tune into what a person's soul is actually trying to work through. So then that person might hear, oh, you need to work through your inner child stuff. That's going to be the most important thing for you to release right now, is those inner child wounds. And then they'll start working on that, and they'll feel, that feeling of progress when you can just feel life is like working with you and things are moving and getting better. And sometimes they're challenging around then and scary, but then you tap into new levels of happiness and success. That's what happens when you're moving with your soul. That's called being in harmony or being in balance with nature, with yourself, with the divine. I like to call the divine God. Some people like to say the universe or whatever. But for me, I say God. So being in harmony and alignment with God is a huge part of this. When you do that, when you're in alignment with what your spirit and what the divine wants of you, then life is a lot easier. It's more challenging in certain ways. Like you have to face yourself fully. You have to be fully real. You can't just kind of like hide. But the external parts of life get easier. You tap into higher levels of success. You meet the right people at the right time. You advance and move forward in things. You get better at things. You find your way through impossible situations. It does get a little more tense and difficult on the inside at certain parts of the journey of getting back into alignment. But it's just like, imagine if you were playing a sport and you learned how to swing the wrong way. Like imagine you played baseball or golf, let's say baseball, and you were holding the bat the wrong way, and that's how you've played for 10 years or 20 years or longer. And then all of a sudden someone's like, this is how you hold it. Like you have to hold it this way and it's going to be better for you. So then the first year of that, you're going to probably play worse baseball. But after that, you're going to actually be swinging right. And then you're going to get better than you ever could have gotten with your weird stance. So this is how life is. A lot of us have maxed out how good life can get with our current hold of the bat, metaphorically, our current way of approaching life. And a lot of us are scared to go backwards a little bit so that we can go way forwards in the future. Because we're so obsessed with our ego seeing incremental progress that we're not willing to go back for like a year, but like learn a much more natural and cohesive way of existing, and then jump leap years or light years, not leap years, light years forward in your life instead of staying stuck. So a lot of people are stuck in that. They're not willing to get a little worse before they get better by correcting their stance, so to speak. You can think of it like that. They're taking their stance of, like, let's say a baseball bat, or their grip on the baseball bat or on a golf club, and they have a weird stance, but it works for them. And they're scared to learn the proper stance because the proper stance is unfamiliar to them. So they would have to adapt to it and get used to it. Even though it's a better way of existing, it still takes some getting used to. So a lot of people get stuck in the in-between phase in spiritual awakening, where they continuously try to become like people that are not spiritually awakened. And so they keep going backwards and forwards. And then they do meditation and they wake up, but then they try to imitate some confident person that actually has a pit in their heart, and they fall backwards, But the people that actually keep moving forwards are the ones that learn how to exist in their sensitivity, the ones that learn how to exist with an open heart, the ones that learn how to exist without needing to make money in a way that harms them and harms others, right? But actually finding a way to make money in a way that serves others and serves themselves, and hopefully is even a little bit fun. So all these different things are so much more important than like the metric of success, right? Is actually how well can you become balanced in your life? Because that's where your experience is. Let's say you get super rich, but you have to work like 16-hour days. You'll be rich, but you'll still be hating life most of the days, waiting for the weekend so that you can go on your yacht for like 2 days. And then you can take a vacation, but you're going to be working so much. Or you retire, and then, how many people get to that point where they retire when they're at actually a young age where they can enjoy stuff? So a lot of people aim for this dream of like retiring at age 40 with like 10 million. But how often does that happen? And really, even people that have 10 million at 40, do they usually actually retire, or do they keep working? So you have to think about this. When you have 10 million, your expenses will be higher. So you'll want to keep earning. You'll never want to stop working, even if you have 10 million or 50 million. It's hard to stop working for people that even have a lot of money. So a lot of people don't realize they're hurling themselves down this abyss of just working. And they have this ideal of getting really rich or something, but they don't realize that, like, where's the actual experience of that? Is it on your 2-week vacation every year? And then your 50 weeks of hating life besides the weekends? Because to me, that's abysmal. But a lot of people live like that. They project all of their enjoyment onto the future and they sacrifice completely the moment. And although that is really important at times, I definitely agree. When you need to do that, you should do that. Some people do it for decades. I don't think that's necessary. And I think you're stuck if you're in a phase of pushing your enjoyment a decade in the future. That's kind of crazy. You should be enjoying the process. So there's so many people that do not enjoy the process of life. And to me, that's really sad. Enjoying the process of life is actually the funnest part. It's what you get to do every moment. You're always in the process. So if you like the process of your life, you like what you do daily, then you win. But a lot of people are in this illusion that if they have $10 million, they win. But I can tell you, I've met so many people that have 10 million plus, and so many of them are depressed and obsessed with money. Those are the two qualities. They do not have satisfaction, and they're usually obsessed with money. They always are thinking about it. So like the end goal for a lot of people that are like, yeah, let's get rich, is like to just sit there and be obsessed with money. You're not even actually knowing what money is for. You're just obsessed with winning the video game of money, which is a simulation. It's not even real life. If you can get rich while enjoying it, I think you win double. I think that's so awesome. You get to also be rich and live in luxury, and you actually love what you do every day. That's freaking awesome. But there are some people that sacrifice their well-being and other people's well-being, for that matter, in order to get rich. And that's, out of alignment at best. So, yeah, a lot of people get really stuck in this paradigm. But if you actually wake up every day and you're stoked about what you get to do and you're really excited, even if a lot of it has stress, because life has challenge, life has tough moments. But if a lot of it you're enjoying, and if you actually are not necessarily projecting your enjoyment a decade in the future, but your enjoyment is like every other day almost, and you're really living in that place of loving life, then I feel like you've won no matter what stage you're at in the capitalism game. I feel like if you're waking up and doing what you love as a 16-year-old, you've already won. Even if you live with your parents or whatever, or whether you're, in your 40s and you've figured out a way to really love life and enjoy it, I think you've won. Or if you're 70 and you're loving life, but so many people sacrifice life. They sacrifice life. They sacrifice the experience of actually being alive, because in order to do all the things they have to do, they have to numb themselves really, really deeply. So it's a powerful paradigm to tap into. It's just to understand that the outcome is cool, but it's the cherry on top. The process, the daily, is actually what life is. And if your daily is dog shit, but the outcome is amazing, then I'd honestly think your life is mostly dog shit with a little cherry on top. But if your life is actually made up of things you love and people you love and support and alignment and support of others, and the blossoming of abundance and harmony for yourself and others, and you're loving that process and taking it on the chin when it's stressful, I think that you've won. So I feel like we culturally need to shift the paradigm of like what it means to be a success. Because I think that money is part of it, but I don't think it's all of it. And I think there's a deeper layer of success that a lot of people don't necessarily base their life around. They base their life around a more shallow, simple metric of success that often is kind of useless in helping them with happiness. So that's the power of tapping into what your soul is telling you to do, is you actually get to live in that stage of alignment where things are fun, but also you accomplish a lot. You actually get to plant a lot of seeds that end up growing. I think they talk about this in the Bible. You can throw your seeds wherever you want. You can throw them on the road, you can throw them on rocks, and you can throw them into soil that they will grow in. But just because you're throwing your seeds around, just because you're spreading service, doesn't mean it's actually doing anything. If it's not landing and growing into something, then it's not really doing anything. So a lot of people are around spreading they're talking a lot, but is it really landing with people? And that's really the question. Is it landing? Is it changing how people view their life? Is it changing how people relate to the divine? Is it changing how people show up? Because if it is, then it's growing, and that affects ripples out farther and farther and farther. But a lot of people just talk, and it doesn't really do much. And, not everything has to do something. We can just enjoy life and express. But when you really want to serve, you have to think about, where can I actually be effective? You don't want to be preaching to the wrong, you don't want to preach to the choir, and you also don't want to preach to the people that are never going to listen to you at all. It's important to find people that actually can be benefited by what you're saying and find the right thing, the awesome thing to say to them. And if you guys want to help more people join, just press the like button, and then that'll add more people. It'll help the live go viral. And yeah, for anyone that's interested, I'm doing donation-based Akashic Records readings where I tap in intuitively to impressions that I get from your soul. And I tap in and see what your soul's current lesson is. So what you're actually supposed to be working through. And I tune in with what your soul is supposed to release, because certain energies are not ready to be released, but certain ones are. And if we're working on the wrong aspects of our spirit, it's kind of like taking down a Jenga set. You might topple something that's not ready to fall within your consciousness. And also, we tap into who is draining you, because some people don't realize how many people are draining their life force energy without them knowing. So it kind of makes your meditation useless that day, because you meditated and then all that energy went to that other person. So a lot of people do so much good for themselves, but it's not staying. They don't have a container for it. They're always leaking energy. They're giving energy out to the wrong people that don't give it back to them. Or they have habits, or sometimes it's just on a spiritual level. You can just have entity attachments and openings where you're just kind of leaking energy. A lot of times people have habits of socializing and pouring their energy out to people in a way that actually drains them and kind of agitates the other person. So everybody has different ways of losing their life force energy, but it's not all about doing more meditation or being more perfect. A lot of times it's just about calling your energy back so that you're in control of your energy. A lot of times we project our pain out, which actually diminishes our power, as well as we reflect our light out. So we think that our light that's coming from our soul is shining from another person. And then we think, oh, that person's so awesome. But it's actually our soul. And that's how a lot of celebrities siphon from people, because everyone goes, they're so beautiful and awesome. And then they think, but I'm not. And then they're giving away all their energy to that person. Then the celebrity's like, I'm so beautiful and awesome, but they're not. That's sad. And it's like this siphony energy. So notice that anytime you feel like you're kind of worshiping some energy, like you're just like, wow, take a breath, because you might be being siphoned. And a lot of celebrity energy is very siphony. Even a lot of spiritual teachers and spiritual content creators are very siphony. Even if you feel like I am siphony, tune out of that, because sometimes it's unconscious. So, pay attention to what's happening on the energetic level, because the energetic level is what actually dictates the phenomenal level, the level of what happens, phenomenon. So when you pay attention to energy, you start understanding why life is doing what it's doing. It's usually not a surprise. When you get a clear look at your own energy, it's not a surprise why things are the way they are outside. I've never experienced actually getting a genuine clear look at myself and then going, and why is that in my life? There's always something, there's always a reflection, there's always a reason. Sometimes we can't comprehend it, but there's always a polarity exchange. There's always something going on. There's a reason why there's a disruption in your life, and it's not because God hates you and the universe sucks. It's never that. That's never the reason. That's what people don't get. When life sucks for you, it's never because the universe sucks or God sucks or that you suck even. It's always just some weird misunderstanding or misalignment, which is not like, it's not wrong to misunderstand something, but it causes distortion. So that's why a lot of people don't understand life, because they think about things in terms of punishment and right and wrong and morality, when they have to think of things instead in preference and frequency and consent. Because things are much more based around preference, frequency, and consent rather than they are around strict right and wrong. On the higher levels, the universe just operates on consent. Everything's just, that's why things are able to get so disgusting, is because it's not all like God's little palace. It's the freedom of the extensions of consciousness that are sometimes totally unconscious, just creating and creating these very bizarre realities of victimization. And that's the weird thing about living on Earth from a spiritual perspective, is there are heaven realms on Earth and there are hell realms on Earth. There are people that actually basically live in hell on Earth, and there are people that live in genuine heaven on Earth. And there's everything in between. And that's the really bizarre thing about Earth, is we don't actually have a cohesive planet consciousness. We have some people that are deep in survival consciousness, like billions probably. And then we have many people that are very up into, beginning to be present. And then there are people that are existing in like angelic and divine frequencies, all in one place. That's why it's so unstable. If you've ever noticed why you're never really able to get an energetic grip on things, especially when you're interacting with a lot of people, it's because of that. There's so much disparity in frequency on Earth. There's so much difference, and it's really destabilizing. So, yeah. but it doesn't mean it's bad. A lot of people misinterpret that and think that Earth is like this terrible place. It's just a chaotic place, and chaos has some terrible in it. But chaos is not all terrible. It's not inherently terrible at all. So I'm doing some Akashic Records readings where I tap into your soul and read impressions. So it's not like I can actually look into a book and read answers from it, but I basically get this like art piece experience that happens in my higher consciousness. And then I do my best to interpret it. And usually I can pinpoint some pretty spot on things about what's going on in people's lives. So if you are interested in that, I'm doing it purely donation based. You can send whatever amount you want and I'll tap in. But then in the meantime, I'm also here just to do some Q&A. So if anyone has spiritual questions about my personal life and like how I live life, how I try to be in harmony, the struggles of trying to live in harmony in a chaotic, disharmonic world, my life and my business as a full-time content creator and spiritual coach. I can answer questions about business as well. So I'm just here to serve in any way that I can. Let's see. I'm going to change the view here. Oh, one of the most important reasons to tap into the Akashic Records and read what's going on in your soul is because sometimes you might have the total wrong idea about what you're supposed to be working on. Because the ego is very tricky, and the ego often goes to the flashiest things like finding a soulmate or making $1 million or completely establishing our purpose into the physical realm. So when we're flashing between stuff like that, sometimes we forget. Sometimes the soul is actually asking, you need to actually heal your wounds from your past relationship because it's making you mistrust the universe. And your ego would never guess such a thing. Your ego would think something like, I need to clear my abundance blocks, So it's so important to read into your soul and to know what your soul is saying, because your soul is always gently and softly guiding you and telling you what you should be focusing on. And it's just gently instructing you. It's not forcing you. It's not making a big deal out of it. So that's why a lot of people struggle with it. They're used to being shaken up by life. But if you actually want to follow spirit, it's very gentle. The ego gets chaotic when you become so gentle with life. But the process itself is actually gentle. The parts that you actually activate. So what can happen is when you tap in with the experience of the Akashic Records and look into your soul, you can get that message. Where for me, it's very clear because I've worked with hundreds of clients. When I tune in with someone's energy, I can instantly tell what's going on in a general sense. I cannot tell, this specific answer about it, but I can instantly tell in a general sense what struggle their soul is going through. So when I tap in with that, it looks like a kind of an artistic impression and I decipher it. Like, for example, if you watch some of my other live streams, that are or that were already recorded, so past ones. I've done some readings where you can just sense that someone is having trouble with trust, where they don't trust the universe. They're showing up very defensive, and they're thinking that life is going to hurt them. And they're not accepting that life can actually be very supportive of them, because they think it always has to be a battle, but it doesn't always have to be a battle. So, for example, that's one that came up in a recent reading, is that the person was having trouble trusting life, and that's why they weren't receiving. Because if you don't trust life, how could you receive from it? You're not going to open up. You're not going to be willing to receive if you're in a state of hesitation and mistrust. So a lot of us have had experiences of betrayal where people really broke our hearts, or they really lied to us and backstabbed us, or they talked behind our back maybe. And it made us close off to the world, because we thought it would be a lot safer if we closed off and just retreated back into the mind or into escapism. But actually opening up and being vulnerable is honestly one of the scariest things ever, but it's one of the most rewarding things ever. So when we can find those moments where we're kind of closing off and instead just like take a breath and open up, then we can actually, it gets easier. That's what I'll say. It's not always so hard to open up and be vulnerable and trust people. It's just hard when you haven't done it in a while. But it gets very easy and it gets very natural. Like babies naturally just trust. It's part of who we are as humans, that we just naturally trust, unless we're in a kind of a messed up state, which most people are in. And trust is not just, oh, I trust you not to cheat on me, or I trust you to bring the eggs back from the grocery store, or whatever, or I trust you not to leave me. Trust is trusting people not to take advantage of you, trusting people not to judge you deeply, trusting people not to go against you in secret. But even trusting people to just show parts of your personality too. That's even trust. Being willing to show parts of who you are to people. And I'd say a big sign that you are mistrustful of people is if you're kind of a chameleon, where every social interaction you kind of change your social expression based on whoever's there, and you have a different personality for everybody. That's a sign of mistrust, because it's safer if you mimic their personality rather than if you bring your own personality, because you don't trust them to actually accept your personality however it shows up. You think you have to match their energy and tone in order for them to like you. So I noticed that in a lot of past clients, is people struggling with mistrust, and especially being chameleons, where they don't really show their true personality when they meet people. They're always kind of adapting and changing based on their environment, and it's a defense mechanism, and it means they're not allowing themselves to be vulnerable. And that's one of the biggest signs. The other one is hesitation. They overthink all their actions because they don't trust themselves, and they think they might do something wrong that's going to like take them away from their path, or is going to be overall negative in some way. They have to know it's the right thing or the perfect answer before they take action. That's another sign of not trusting life, not trusting yourself, and not trusting the universe, not trusting God. And it definitely happens, you know, it definitely happens. But we have to catch that. We have to notice when we're closing off from life and really make a real point to stay vulnerable and stay soft in certain ways. We can't let life completely harden us. We can't let it completely numb us. So I also, by the way, have some free clarity calls, which are these 30-minute calls on Zoom, and they're one-on-one with me. So if you'd like to participate in that, if you resonate with that, then you can go to my accounts. You'll find it on all my platforms, and you can schedule that. And yeah, they're kind of like a life audit. We go over what's going on in your life and what you've been currently working through, and we kind of map out a plan to get you unstuck and to get you back in that kind of higher vibrational state. So if that does resonate with you, you know where to find it. There's, I think, a form on one place, and then there's a calendar you can book on another. And those are totally free. And we also have a free community called Circle of Wisdom. So there's 5 mentors that work with me in there, and they're all excellent. They're all professionals in different areas. They're experts. And, one of the guides in there is an expert in fitness. One is an expert in relationships. One is an expert in sound healing and spirituality and energy work. Another is an expert in energy work. So we have a bunch of amazing individuals that are offering their mentorship for free in there. So it's a great community if you do want to get connected with more spiritually inclined individuals who are tapped in. It's good to have people around that are actually tapped in to that higher frequency, so that you remember that you're not the only one, but that there's lots of other people like you that are having very similar experiences to you a lot of the time. So yeah. And then let's see if you guys have any questions. Right now we're just doing a live Q&A. So whatever questions you have about manifesting, about spirituality, about finding your soulmate, whatever, because I'd say I've manifested like 80% of the major things that I've tried to manifest in life. I have an amazing, beautiful, lovely girlfriend who we've been dating for a couple years now. And I have a sole purpose business of doing spiritual coaching full time. It's paid my bills for 5 years now. So, you know, I'm all about service. Most of what I do is just free service online, just helping people. And then probably 1% of those people end up going through to my higher level advanced programs, where that's the basic, business part of it. But in general, it's just me showing up. I guess a lot of my attention goes to my clients. Um, I'd say it's about 50-50. About half my time goes to my clients, and half my time goes to just giving away free, awesome videos, doing lives, and doing awesome stuff online. So, and I used to do a lot more in person last year, but I kind of stopped. I did probably like 15 live breathwork events last year in person in Hawaii. I live in Hawaii, by the way. And I've done a bunch of live events here. Yeah. So whatever questions that you guys have about that, let me know. And for people curious, for the Akashic Records readings, we're doing donation based. So you can send through whatever you want, but this is the suggested amount. And we go into your soul's current lesson. So a lot of people are trying to work through the wrong stuff. They're trying to work through their abundance block so they can make $10 million. But what they actually need to be doing is focusing on, who knows, maybe their inner child, or maybe they need to let go of trauma from their childhood or something, you know? So a lot of people are focusing on the exact wrong thing that's not even that beneficial for them. And it's kind of like if you're playing Jenga and you are trying to take out the wrong piece, it might collapse the whole game. Like you want to take off every piece, but you don't want to take off the wrong piece at the wrong time. And this is what a lot of people do on ayahuasca and like intense psychedelics is they see all their trauma and then they're like, let me heal it all. And then it's like, oh my God, you were supposed to heal that over 20 years, but you got tangled up in it. And now you're probably never going to heal through it all. But now you're stuck in it, and you're actively healing it, but like it's going to take you years. It was not supposed to come up like that. So it's so important to like follow your higher wisdom when you're doing spiritual work and not just like heal this. Oh, I need to heal this because I saw it once. You don't want to do that. You want to listen to your soul. Your soul knows what to start healing, and your soul will tell you what to heal. Your soul will advise you on how to go about your spiritual healing process. God will advise you. You can't just like be so rambunctious. You can't just rambunctiously dive into shadow work. Some people are crazy. Like every time they feel a negative energy, they like try to transmute it. It's like you are getting tangled in it. You're not healing it. You need to have a static personality and sense of self that exists beyond healing. You can't just constantly be a healing machine. You know what I mean? Hey, how's it going? Is that Anita? Good to see you. So it's so important to not get stuck in the healing trap. A lot of people are really stuck in the trap of healing. Every time they see a bit of their shadow come up, they're like, let me heal that. It's so toxic. And it gets them stuck in the same external place for years, because energy shift is not about healing everything. It's about embodying what you actually want to see in your life. So healing is important sometimes, but you're not supposed to just heal it all like you're cleaning, like you're mopping the floor. You don't want to get like clean it all. You want to clean what's in your way and clean what's causing harm to others and help others do the same. You got to think about shadow work and spirituality in a much more functional way. It's not about just recklessly diving into every single trauma that you have. It's about finding an actual balanced way to live in general, where you enjoy your life and you're also healing, where it's like, it's got to be sustainable. I think that's the key word there, is if you're not sustainable with your healing practices, you're going to get really stuck, because you're going to be drained and then you're unable to heal when you're drained. So you give all your energy to your healing, but then your life itself is still in a stuck place, so it's not supporting you back. And all your energies, it's kind of like dumping your energy into it's like you have a little bit of water and you're pouring it on like the big fire, and it's not doing anything. Like you have to put out the little fires with the little water. And when you have big water, you can put out the big fire. So with energy work, you can't just attack every single trauma you find. You have to, it's kind of like battle. Like you have to know you're going to win the battle before you engage in it. You can't just like engage with all of your shadows at once and like expect to win and become enlightened. Shadow work's not a game. It's like And also your shadows aren't wrong, so they don't need to go now. They just no longer serve you. So you should start healing what no longer serves you. It's not like it's wrong though. It's just out of alignment. That's a concept for people to get, is out of alignment and wrong are two different things. Wrong is a mental concept that's from the ego. Out of alignment is a real thing. It's actually a real aspect of reality. Something can be disharmonic. But just because something's disharmonic doesn't mean it's wrong. Sometimes things that are really intentionally good are actually just disharmonic, and they're not that bad on the surface, but they cause disruption and they cause negative karma feedback. A lot of people don't notice that people in their life are draining them. One of the biggest things that I notice with a lot of clients that I work with is that they're meditating a lot, they're eating pretty healthy, they're doing a lot of good for themselves, but there are certain people in their life that they have a codependent relationship with, and they're draining their energy. So all the energy they build up in their meditation is getting sapped into the other person. And then the other person's in a chaotic state because they're draining someone and they're just dispersing the energy. So it's not growing. It's kind of like trying to plant a seed on the rocks. It will not grow. So when you're giving all your energy to someone in your life that's draining you, it's just like spilling out. It's not actually replenishing them either, because they're not in a state where they can spiritually receive it. They're just using your energy. So one of the best things about Akashic Records readings is that you can tap in and see who is draining a person. So you can tell what type of person it is, and usually the person will get an image in their head of who's draining them. And it's so important to cut energetic cords. And Pekka asks, hi, what info are you able to tap into if I order the reading? It's your soul's current lesson. So that is what your soul is trying to work through and learn through your life right now. We also tap into what to release. So what energy is stuck that is getting in the way, that's ready to release. So a lot of times we're focused on releasing the wrong stuff, but there's certain things that are ready to go, and that's the stuff to focus on. And then the third thing is tapping into who has been draining you. So tapping into who might have energetic cords or a codependent energy relationship with you. And sometimes that can be someone we're codependent with in our life. Sometimes it's someone that's energetically draining us in a codependent style way, but they're not necessarily even in our life anymore. It can be exes, it can be people we haven't spoken to in a decade. Sometimes can be drawing energy from us psychically and without even knowing it. I'm not saying they're like doing a ritual or something. They're just through their ego, through judgment, usually they're doing it. So yeah. And it's just donation based. So you can send whatever amount that you want, whatever amount resonates. And I can send you the info. You should be able to find it in the description on this channel. But if not, let me know. It's kind of like seeing an art impression of the person's life. That's how it is for me. I don't see like letters and words that are like, this is what's going on in their life. I get impressions and sensations, and then I do my best to interpret what I'm experiencing but it's not like I can channel direct information. But I can channel the dynamic of what your energy is going through. And I can tell you why the energy is collapsing in on itself if it is. I can tell you what other energies are stuck on it. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks for coming, Anita. It was nice to see you. Have a nice day as well. Yeah. And for people that are unfamiliar with me, my name's Chris. I'm a spiritual coach and I live in Hawaii. And I do intuitive spiritual work as well as just kind of general life coaching stuff, helping people work through aligning with their purpose, getting success, and then aligning with success as well. You'd be so surprised how many people have trouble with aligning with success after they've already accomplished a lot. They can't seem to let it land that they've already succeeded. So they constantly project outwards a new goal. And then they constantly are feeling empty and drained because they never feel like they've actually achieved it. Cool. And Pekka, I have other ways. I don't know what country you're in, but if you're in the US, I have Venmo as well and other ways of donation if PayPal doesn't work. But either way, and it's nice to see you here. Yeah. A lot of people don't realize that the spiritual realm dictates so much of what happens in the physical. Oop, mosquito. So much of what's happening in the energy realm is what has already happened in secret in the physical or what is going to happen in the physical. So when you're tuning into the energy, you get almost like an extra perspective on all events because not only can you see what's going on, but you can see the deeper layers and how aligned they are. And a lot of people do this very intuitively and they don't even realize it. And they call it a gut feeling or their intuition. But a lot of times, what it is that they are in a state where they're actually channeling a message from somebody else. So they're actually channeling the truth of the emotions and the thoughts that were happening behind a certain or specific event. And that's what actually is happening on that deeper harmonic layer. That deeper layer where you can either see disharmony or you can see harmony. In that deeper layer is where you can, it's almost like you can predict the future because you can see the trend of something. It's not actually predicting the future because things can always miraculously change, but you can see the trajectory that an event is going. You can even see the trajectory that a certain person is going in by tuning into that underlying energetic layer. That's why when you're starting to date someone, usually you get a gut feeling. And if you look back on it, you're usually right. And I'm not talking about the feelings you get, but the gut feeling of like, I probably shouldn't be with this person. It's usually right. And why is that? Why are we able to guess that so easily? The reason is because we can just sense how good of a person that is and also how good they would be to us. Some people are great people to their family and to strangers, but they're terrible to their partners. Some people are like that. Other people are great to their partners, but they're terrible to strangers. So but if you can tune in with that energy, you can tell how someone will treat you. And a lot of people are just too scared to go in and trust their intuition. And instead, they want to trust their like pleasure feelings, like the like the desire, instead of listening to that deeper harmony. Like, is this actually, would this work for my life even? Does it fit? Does it even work in the context of me? That's what you actually have to be asking. Yeah. Faded Oslo said time travel. It's kind of like time travel. I honestly think that the energetic realm is kind of outside of time. So when we go into that space, you can connect with I feel like I've connected with the younger version of my parents before, spiritually. And that's pretty cool. I've had very intense, awesome spiritual experiences that totally go against science. But you can almost feel how real it is. And then undeniable things happen, like you get told information and then it actually happens. That can be spooky when that happens. And for those of you that just joined, I'm doing Akashic Records readings. So what we're working through is your soul's current lesson, what is there to release, and then what has been draining you. So a lot of people, they think their soul is working through a certain thing, so they're trying to spiritually work on their abundance blocks, for example. But instead, what they're actually doing, or their soul wants them to be doing, is working through an inner child wound or maybe an ancestral block. So what happens is, if you're going against your soul, even if you're trying to do something positive like attract your twin flame, but right now in life you're actually not meant to be doing that, then it still goes against your spirit, even though it's a good thing. So maybe you're not meant to have $1 million yet, but you're trying to manifest $1 million. And if you're doing that, then what's going to happen is you're going to be in this state of consciousness where you're going against your spirit, because your spirit wants you to let go of your childhood trauma and get back in alignment with self-love. But instead, you're trying to manifest $1 million. So you start going against yourself. You start going against your own consciousness. And a lot of people don't realize that they're actually in a basic fight with their own consciousness. And that's why their life feels so stressful all the time. It's not because of some external thing that they could base it on. It's because of simply their life is in disharmony, so it feels upsetting to them. It feels upsetting to be out of alignment. And they blame it and blame it and blame it on this person and that person. Or, they're not able to get their vibration up because this reason and that reason. But anytime you're blaming, it's just you being in victim consciousness. And victims will always attract something else to make them a victim. And it's sad that it's that way, but that's how the universe works. People that empower themselves, even if they have very tough situations, get empowering results from life. And people that stay a victim of life continue to be victimized by life. And, it's just there to teach us to be self-empowered and to also recognize that even when life is hard, we're still blessed because we're connected to the divine. We have souls that are immortal. We have infinite chances, so there's so many ways that it's so amazing that we are existing. Even when it seems like things are very tough, it's so amazing that we exist. And when we can really anchor that in, then our life gets really good. Our life gets so amazing when we start to anchor that in. All right. Well, thanks so much for joining today. It was an awesome session with you guys. So much fun. It was epic tapping in with you. And yeah, I'll be here a lot more often. So just tap in. Tap in on YouTube, tap in on TikTok. I'm here. Peace, everyone. Love ya. And I'll see you guys soon.